Captain Midnight.
The year was probably 1998. I was at my little daycare while my parents were at work, 5 years old or so, and a TV was on. I have a very distinct memory of seeing him. This cartoon figure in red and blue. Here was this man, leaping around, swinging through the air on buildings taller than I had ever seen in my small city in Montana. I was transfixed. I remember asking an adult who this was, and they told me, "That's Spider-Man." Armed with this knowledge, I went home in search of more. I had to find this guy. Looking into it now, I believe that was the 1967 cartoon airing in syndication on the Family Channel. Unlike the daycare though, my family did not have cable. So what I found when I asked my parents about it and they saw there was a Spider-Man show airing on Fox Kids on Saturday mornings was a very different beast entirely. Faster, more intense, and to my 1998 self, a lot scarier. With this monster guy haunting my new hero in the theme song of every episode. I was a pretty cowardly kid, to be honest. The 90s series freaked me out more than I would have admitted to my parents. I was terrified of characters like Morbius, Carnage, and Venom, but I was willing to put up with them for this new character, my new buddy, Spider-Man. I think because of this experience and how much it has stuck with me, I'm pretty interested in how kids come to find the character now. A lot has changed. There's just so many more paths to discovering Peter Parker and company. A few years later, I was waiting for what felt like an eternity for the first Spider-Man movie to come out. Now there's 10 movies, countless video games, and a lot more shows. But there's a Spider-Man TV show that's been running for over 100 episodes now, that functions as the most obvious gateway into the world of the webhead. Spidey and his amazing friends. And yet, I never see it talked about. I mean, I understand why. I feel pretty goofy talking about it now. This isn't exactly Kraven's Last Hunt here. Still, as someone who has covered a lot of Spider-Man projects over the years, I feel like it's worth looking into what will soon be the longest running show the characters ever had. Not to judge it like I would one of the characters' movies, or even a show aimed at older audiences like Disney Plus's Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, but to see how well it introduces the basic concept of the character, and whether it feels like a kid's show with actual value, or something made completely cynically. It's a simple show, but the more I looked into it, the more interesting I found it, and I hope you'll stick around to see why. If you find yourself enjoying this video, I definitely appreciate a like, or you could share it with a parent you know has had to watch an endless amount of this thing through the years. I know there's a lot of them out there. With that said, let's get into it.
I want you to make Spider-Man your personal case. Understand?
So for this video, I mostly watched Season 1, along with the recent Spidey and the Gang Save Santa Claus episode that Disney posted on YouTube. I will say, I don't think it's changed much. Like many kids shows, you know the beats it's gonna hit and the order it'll usually hit them in. Our leads are very young versions of Peter Parker, Miles Morales, and Gwen Stacy. They're hanging out, often enjoying some family time. Then a villain like Green Goblin or Rhino will come into the story with a mischievous, but not all that villainous plan. Our heroes suit up in a sequence that usually uses the same footage and the same pop rock song and transform into Spider-Man, the Ghost Spider, and, Spin? Miles Morales is Spin in this. Sure. They leap into the action, using the power of teamwork and friendship to foil the plot, often with the help of another hero like Black Panther or Captain America. There's 2 stories in every episode, running a bit over 10 minutes, and there you go. You rinse and repeat, the formula is locked in. Now many preschool shows operate like this, and I think as a kid there's something really comforting and enjoyable about that. Is it repetitive? I mean, obviously, but there's a reason that kids watch and rewatch the same movies and TV episodes over and over again. So I don't really have an issue with the formula being so ironclad. Now, where I do have a problem is that I kind of find it hard to look at. This whole Cocomelon YouTube Kids sludge look, it's pretty rough. Now, would I have still enjoyed it as a kid? I mean, of course I would. Look at these guys, they're swinging all over the place. But even among contemporary kids TV, Spidey is not a looker. Now, I've watched a lot of the original 1981 Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I think I actually talked a lot about it in my old Spider-Man animated show ranking video, if you want to check that out. And look, I'm not going to make any great claims for the animation there. The early 80s were not exactly a high watermark for the animation quality of kids TV. And I understand that a grown man taking potshots at a show like this is the easiest thing in the world. I'm just not the target audience here. Still, I would take that 1981 look over this any day of the week. I think kids deserve a little bit more than what this animation is giving them, which just feels aggressively sterile. How this show goes about introducing kids to the world of Spider-Man, I find pretty interesting. That's kind of why I wanted to make this. The biggest change here, by far, is making most of the main characters children. Which is kind of funny. Spidey and Friends imagines a world where adults with normal jobs are constantly terrorized by like 12-year-olds in costumes and then bailed out of trouble by 10-year-olds in costumes. I do think the aging down of its characters, especially the leads, impacts how they will be viewed by its audience significantly. As a kid, I liked that Spider-Man was a teenager or a college student, and that Batman was an adult. Sure, there is something to be said for relatability, but I also think there's something exciting and aspirational about them being these older figures. By making the characters elementary school age instead of teenagers or adults, the show removed an element that made Spider-Man pretty compelling to me at that age. Now, to be fair, the show doesn't do this with all the superhero characters. And as an introduction to some of the others, the show really goes out of its way to define kind of what their whole deal is in a way that its audience can understand. And there's probably something to be said for that. But when it comes to our core three, Peter, Gwen, and Miles, I'm not sure you can say the same. You won't find any references to Uncle Ben here, or an episode devoted to him and Spider-Man's origin story. Something that the 94 show did, or even the 67 cartoon, and maybe that show's best episode. And I do understand why. It would really clash with the tone they're going for. There are zero references to, like, death here. This is not a show that would be comfortable with that. And, you know, times change. I'm not expecting J. Jonah Jameson to just unload a pistol on Spider-Man out of the back of a car.
It's that web-slinging weasel!
Man, this 60s show was so good. But I do wonder if this, alongside the MCU movies downplaying Uncle Ben so much, will impact how he's viewed by fans as they get older. I mean, this is a much bigger hit than that Superhero Squad show from 2009. It seems huge. It also fully embraces the Spider-versification of everything Spider-Man, with obviously all three leads having spider powers. When you put all of this together, I feel like you really have to squint to see much of the core Lee Ditko foundation that built all of this. Something that was very much still present in the 90s show or Spectacular Spider-Man, even as they added a lot of elements from especially the 80s and 90s McFarlane era stuff. Now, you know, to be fair again, the original Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends wasn't exactly built around the pathos of Peter Parker either, so it's not like this is entirely new. And Miles and Gwen have become really important aspects to what millions of people love about the world of Spider-Man. So I do understand why they're here. Just because it's not the exact flavor of Spider-Man I grew up with doesn't make it bad. Like many of you, I love the Spider-Verse movies. I do think, though, that not attaching any weight to Peter's choice to become Spider-Man after Ben's death and removing that entirely makes the character like 30 times more generic. Is it too heavy for a show like this? Yeah, probably, but I do think there's a way to get things like this across in a fashion that isn't like horribly upsetting for kids. I hadn't seen any Bluey before last week, actually, but from what I have seen, it's easy to tell that that's a show aimed at this exact demographic that's able to kind of communicate sadder or tougher aspects of life in a way that respects its child audience, something this show just isn't interested in doing. Now, I'm not trying to do some huge hit job on this kid Spidey show. At the end of the day, I think the kids that really, really love it will come to the rest of the character's history over time, and that's fine. It is really strange to me that for many kids out there, this weird Cocomelon looking show is Spider-Man to them, but I guess it does mostly serve its role as a gateway into the character. I will say, there's a lot better children's TV out there, and I doubt this would be the first choice for any parent who wants to sit down and actually watch something with their kid. Spidey and His Amazing Friends definitely screams something to distract your 5-year-old with for a few minutes while you're busy, more than anything else. I am interested if this being Minnie's first exposure to Spider-Man kind of shifts what the character is to people over time. We've already seen Gwen and Miles added to many Spider-Verse projects. Will we reach a point where stories just about Peter, or maybe without all three of them, feels off to people in the future? And are there any elements of these villains that will somehow work their way into the Spider-Man aimed at older audiences, as people who grew up with it start writing Spider-Man projects themselves? I mean, maybe in the future, people will just call Miles Spin without a second thought. It's really weird and kind of fascinating to think about. The show itself really isn't much, but the impact it could have on the character down the line, I think is a much bigger deal than people realize. But what do you think? If you have kids, do they watch this? Are you happy with the direction of this show generally? Or do you think the animation alone makes it a cursed abomination? I really want some other perspectives on this one. Now, let's switch it up and talk about a show I mentioned earlier, Bluey. I gotta be honest, beyond being aware of how hugely popular it was, I really knew nothing about Bluey, and that's where Lindsay Ellis came in. She recently released the fantastic video Bluey Adults as a Nebula exclusive, exploring the phenomenon of adults becoming obsessed with the show online. And as you'd expect from Ellis, it's insightful, interesting, funny, and managed to clearly communicate to me the deep appeal of this show for people of all ages, and illustrate where things got kind of strange in the adult fandom. If you're in the mood to check it out, great news. Nebula now offers a free trial, so you can watch it completely free, alongside my videos completely ad-free, and tons of other great creators that release exclusive content on Nebula. If you like what you see, memberships are currently 50% off for yearly plans. That means $30 a year, only $2.50 a month. That same deal applies to Nebula gift cards, which is hard to beat as a stocking stuffer. So use my link go.nebula.tv/captainmidnight or just scan the QR code on screen.
Here's a special tip for the fellas and girls who have not already joined Captain Midnight's new 1940 Flight Patrol. You'd better hurry up and join at once, because there's a big adventure ahead. The thing to do now is to get started, because we're going to have not only barrels of fun, but loads of free gifts and prizes, too.